This month, we will be talking about forms and reports in VibrationVIEW. How to create reports, how to create forms, how to enter data into forms, and then in the end, how to get all of that into a report. We'll talk about using quick report options. We'll talk about using the simple and advanced test reports, integrating reports into your test schedule, as well as creating your own custom reports. As always, we'll get started with the core values at Vibration Research: innovation, doing the right thing; collaboration, being capable and competent; having a strong and driven work ethic; and being accountable and responsible. These really guide how we work each and every day, guide our interactions with the customers, how we develop software, how we do all of our work and make decisions to best suit the company and the people that we serve. So, again, as an introduction, we're talking about forms and reports in VibrationVIEW, and I will be using the latest beta of VibrationVIEW 2018, which is set to be released in the next couple weeks. We'll talk about quick reports, simple test reports, advanced test reports and setting up reports in schedules, generating reports from data files, and then at the end we'll talk about customizing forms and reports. So to start, we will look at quick reports. If I go to VibrationVIEW, create a new test, do a simple sign sweep, click OK. If I wanted to save my test, I could. Get rid of some of this, start my test. Now, quick reports are designed to be easy. If you have this report button at the top, you can simply click it. If you have not configured your quick report button, this quick report prompt will be the first thing that you see. The quick report prompt will allow you to configure what graphs, what channels, what information you want to see every time you click that report button. By default, you only see this the first time that you click the report button. So we can make some selections here. If I wanted to see acceleration, velocity, displacement, transmissibility, let's just do channel 1 and channel 2, as well as my breakpoint table and test status. Get rid of customer information, click OK. Now it's automatically going to generate that report. So I have channel 1 and channel 2. Not a lot to see in this particular sweep because I only went from 30 to 100 Hertz. As I scroll down, I now have my velocity, displacement profiles, transmissibility graph, and then breakpoint table, current measurements, channel measurements. Everything that I selected. If I close this and hit that report button again, I actually have this configured already. So if I right click on the report button, it brings up this drop down and I actually have quick report with prompt set as my default. If I change that to just quick report, now when I click the report button, every time I click that report button, it's going to generate the same report. Acceleration, velocity, displacement, transmissibility, and the extra data. To change that, I can right click on the report button, and if I want to just change what is included in that quick report, but I don't want to see the prompt each time I click that report button, I can change my quick report setup at the very bottom here. Or if I want to see the prompt every time, I can change it to quick report with prompt. And the last option is to use the classic report. Classic report, when I click the report button, is going to bring up my reports templates folder, where I can then go through and pick a particular report template that I wanted to see. So if I pick test report, I could save, and now I'm going to have a test report based on a previously saved report template. So that is quick reports. That works in all of the various test modules. Go back to our presentation here. Talked about quick report with prompt. Next, we can talk about simple test reports. In the quick test mode, or simple tests, in VibrationVIEW, there is always a report checkbox. That report checkbox, if we create a new test, we can look at sign or random. Again, here in random, I have the report checkbox. That report checkbox actually is generating the test report for each test module. So to find that template, to see what information is included in that, I can open a File Explorer window, navigate to this PC, and it's in the C drive, VibrationVIEW, templates, and then the test mode that you're looking at. In this case, we were talking about random. So now, inside of random, I have all of my different report templates. And if I look, there is a test report template. If I open that, this is the report template that will be filled in when I generate the test report. You have a bunch of information here. You have some parameters, which we will talk about all of these as we move forward in the webinar. But you also have graph, that actually generates the graph. And at the very bottom you have test notes. There's a couple other entries that you can add into this, and we'll hit on those as we move forward as well. But this is where that default test report template is saved and what it looks like as a template. Next would be setting and creating reports in an advanced test as part of your test schedule. And this is a very common demonstration that we do, where you have a form that is entered before the test. You actually run your test. Then you enter a form at the end of the test that details some of the things that observations that may have been made during the test, or notes or pass-fail information. And then finally you generate the report. So it's kind of a combination of data from the beginning, the test itself, and the post-test data. So we can set that up in here as well. If I edit my test, go to advanced, my profile I will set to be, let's just do 30 to 500 so we can actually see a resonance. In my test schedule, I'm going to add a couple levels. My first level is going to be enter form. And forms are simple HTML documents with text boxes and check boxes and pictures if you want. Anything you can embed into an HTML document can be embedded into this form. The real benefit is that you can enter information that VibrationVIEW doesn't already know. Say customer information, your name, your laboratory information, product details, sample numbers, any of that information that you may want to include in a report, but that is not something that VibrationVIEW knows through the test itself. So we'll enter a form. I can do that by hitting Browse, and we'll use the pre-test form. Next, we can run our sign sweep. The third schedule level will be enter another form, Browse, and in this case I will pick Post Test. And finally, we're going to View Report. There are a few options here. You have View Report As, View Report, Save Report As, Save Report, or Print Report. View Report As, Save Report As is going to allow you to enter a name for that report prior to generating it. View Report is just going to save it as the default name from the Data tab. So we'll use the Form Report. And what I mean by that, View Report, when this report pops up, the actual name that it will be called is going to be C VibrationVIEW. It's going to be saved in this directory, C VibrationVIEW Reports 2018-07. And I'm going to use data file name from report. I could also uncheck this and type in whatever value I wanted here. So that's where the default name comes from. If you do the View Report As or Save Report As, it will allow you to type in a unique name. It will actually prompt you to type in that unique name before generating the report. Click OK. I can start my test. This is that pre-test form. This is a pretty simple one in that I have some customer information. So I can type in some information here, company, sign sweep. And type in my technician name. Some of the other forms have validate buttons where you can actually require that these checkboxes physically be checked each time. My checkboxes look a little small because I'm on a very high resolution screen in beta software right now. So if I hit continue, now my test is actually going to run. Again, this is in VibrationVIEW 2018. I am using demonstration mode. If I edit my graph, I can add a couple of channels. If I wanted to create a new graph, transmissibility, let's just do channel 1 and channel 2. If you haven't watched our 2018 VibrationVIEW 2018 webinar yet, there is a change in VibrationVIEW that includes this previous sweep data. Essentially what that is doing is creating a new trace in VibrationVIEW called previous. Previous sweep would show the full data of the previous sweep. So as this sweeps all the way across, I'm on my current sweep. And once, if I were doing 2 sweeps, once my output frequency starts coming back down, the sweep up data would be moved to previous, and then the current sweeping down data would be included in channel 2. So there, we're about done. Once our sweep finishes, I have my post test, so I can enter today's date, the report date if you're reporting at a different time than actually running the test. Just enter some arbitrary information in here. Hit continue. Now VibrationVIEW is automatically going to generate this report for me from that template. It includes the data that I typed in. So I have customer XYZ, I have sign sweep, I have my job number, my test was a pass, I didn't fill in all this other information. I have my name as the test technician written into that approval signature. So it's automatically pulling that form data out and replacing those form callouts in the report template. Next, we'll talk about forms and get a little bit more in depth in forms. We talked about what a form is. Really, it is a completely customizable document. And the main purpose is for you to enter information that VibrationVIEW does not already know. There are a couple different ways to edit HTML documents. If you understand how to write lines in HTML, it is possible to just edit it in a notepad type format and enter it line by line. Or you can use a what you see is what you get type editor. There's a bunch of types. We'll actually look at Composer here today because that's a freeware version. So the next step is to generate reports from data files. I have some data files that I ran yesterday. If I go to my page here, I have 10 sign sweeps. If I open the first one, it's going to open that in a new instance of VibrationVIEW 2018. This is another change from previous versions of the software. From here, I can, depending on what I want to do, this looks like it's a sign sweep from 30 to 1000 hertz. I had 2 channels. I can click that report button, and if I change that back to quick report, I could generate that quick report that I saw earlier. There's my quick report. Acceleration, velocity, displacement, and transmissibility, and some extra information. I can also right click and either pick a report out of my template. I can hit more templates and bring that here. Another cool trick is, especially for sign sweeps, if I want to view the data of more than one sign sweep, I can go to the Edit tab and paste from files. If I paste from files, I can go to my location and actually highlight all of the remainder of my data files and just hit open. That's going to essentially, whatever traces I had visible in this graph, so I had demand, control previous, channel 2 previous. So for each of those data files, it is going to paste the control control previous, channel 2 previous data. Now, if I go back to the Edit tab, I can remove all my pasted traces. It's going to take those off. If we change this up a little bit, if I edit my graph, scroll to the bottom and remove the previous sweep data so that I don't get duplicates. And if I grab in the middle here and drag this all the way down, now I just have my one graph. We'll add a transmissibility graph to it for channel 1 to channel 2. So now I have my acceleration profile and channel 1, channel 2. Go back to Edit, paste from files, go to my recent folder here, highlight channels or data files 2 through 10 or 11 in this case, and bring those in. Now I just have the control and channel 2 data for each of those sweeps. And you can see I did vary the sweep rate a couple times in these different sweeps, so I have some change that happens, and it was a real test that was run. Now, if I wanted to report this, I could right-click on the report button and generate one of these, let's just say, displayed graphs. If I save that report, it is going to create a report with all of my pasted traces and those particular graphs. Another trick, if I just open Word, just like everything else in VibrationVIEW, you can copy and paste between Microsoft Office or into Word and Excel quite easily. So if I minimize Word, I can simply click in the white space of this graph and hit Control-C for copy. Go to Word, hit Control-V, and now it's pasted directly into that report. So if I did have a report with a bunch of information, I wanted to add graphs, I could do that. It also works if I have annotations. So let's say I wanted to annotate this particular peak. That's a little bit crude. Let's annotate this one right here. So if I click on one of these traces, hit the insert key, then I just get an annotation for that particular trace rather than everything. Now if I copy and paste this graph again through Control-C or any other method, if I open Word, hit paste, now my annotation is included in that graph. Alright, let's keep moving forward. So next we're going to talk about customizing forms. And again, forms are HTML documents. On the left-hand side, this is what the text version of an HTML document looks like. With this, when I actually view that HTML in a web browser, it will look like that form that we entered at the beginning of the test. So, they are located in C, VibrationVIEW. So we'll just go back to our C drive, VibrationVIEW, templates, your test mode that you're working in this case we're looking at sine. This is where all of our report templates were, but now I have to go to one more folder called forms. And this is where our form templates are. So to edit a form, there's a couple different ways. The first being simple text editor. What I could do is, just so that I don't mess up my existing forms, I can copy and paste that. So now I have a pre-test copy. And we'll just change this to pre-test webinar demo. So if I open that pre-test webinar demo, if I double click on it, it's going to open it in a web browser and show me what that actually will look like. If I minimize this and kind of size it appropriately the way it looks like it looks in VibrationVIEW, this is essentially what you would see in VibrationVIEW. So I have the turn down, amplifier gain, and these other checkboxes, company name, customer, street address, etc. Similar to what we've filled out already. If I wanted to change any of that or edit it, you have a couple options. You can open with, if you open, it's going to open it in Notepad. Oh, excuse me. If you open with, you can either open with Notepad. I typically use Notepad++ because Notepad++ will color code the different areas of the HTML text. So it makes it a lot easier to see, a lot easier to understand. So this first part is setting colors and background and page width and height by default. Then you see these checkboxes. Checkbox, amplifier gain down, gain up. Those are those 7 checkboxes that are viewed, or 6 checkboxes. And then next, this bottom part, so here is enter customer name, and then customer. So what this all is, we'll just look at this customer name. This is just a note for you to look at later, but in order to pull out the information that is typed in that text box, I need to use this code in VibrationVIEW, that left bracket form : customer. Customer is this name, this call out. So whatever data I type into that customer name text box in my form, when I want to display that information in my report, I need to type in left bracket form : customer right bracket. And it will take whatever is in this text box and replace this with that information from the text box. Excuse me, this, including the brackets. So if we wanted to add, let's say there is a manager name option. So let's say I wanted to add an option to automatically allow me to type in that manager name. What I'm going to do is highlight this section, basically from the note all the way down for that entire text box. I'm just going to copy and paste it. As simple as that. Hit enter so I get the same spacing. And what I'm going to do is change, we'll just start at the top and work our way down. Change this. I don't want to enter the technician. I want my form to be manager. And I'm going to enter manager name. And I'm going to change, instead of my text box name being technician, which would just duplicate what I've had before, I'm going to change that to manager. If I save this, close it, double click on it to open it, what you're going to notice at the very bottom, I now have, instead of just enter technician name, I also have enter manager name. The next thing that I need to do is edit my form report so that it automatically inserts that manager name. If I go to my form report, open that, scroll all the way to the bottom, there is this laboratory manager. So what I could do is, again, left bracket, form, colon, manager. Has to be spelled the same way. And here we have that form rep date. That must be from our post-test form, but I can paste that in here as well so that this information gets filled out appropriately. And the other thing to take note is the formatting also applies. So if I wanted my technician name to be in italics and my manager name to be in bold, we'll just make this up. Now I can save that report, close that, go back to my data files. Oh, excuse me. Go back to my quick test. We'll enter this one more time. Customer test lab ABC. Oh. Let's do John Smith. Test lab ABC 123 4th Street, City, State. Oh, and see, I entered the wrong form, so we're going to abort this test, change it, because I'm still using my original form, so I didn't have my manager name in there. So we have to go to C, VibrationVIEW, templates, sign, forms. Now start my test, start it over, and now I have that manager name. So just typing in some information here. So the technician information, and then we'll do the manager name, click continue. And again, our test is going to run. If we want to edit the graph, we can change what we're seeing here. So we just see our current sweep data, since we're only doing one sweep after all. Now, as this continues to go, we can expect that once we generate that form report, it will now include that manager name. It'll include the formatting that we applied, And it will include the report date, so long as I fill it out appropriately without skipping it this time. This may seem slightly intimidating, but it's not as difficult as it could be made out to be. This is, again, so report date. Today is, let's just pick a day. I'm pre-recording the webinar, so it's going to be 7/13/2018, 7/10/2018, pass. Oops. None. Pass. Hit continue. Now VibrationVIEW is going to generate that report. So I have all this information that I've filled out. I have written by the lab technician, me, report date was 7/13/2018, and I'm in italics, mark is in bold, again with the appropriate dates. So forms are pretty simple. There is another tool that you can use to edit forms. Composer is one of them. It's this software, Kompozer. It's freeware that you can download. What this allows you to do is actually open, let's go to that C VibrationVIEW, templates, sign, forms, and open our webinar demo. This allows you to edit everything in a Microsoft Word type text editor where you can actually place text boxes and create things, and it will automatically create the source code needed to generate that particular document. So I'm not going to step into this, but there's tools and all kinds of things that you can use to step you through how to create and modify HTML documents with some type of editor that looks like this. So again, there's Composer. All right, so customizing reports. Customizing reports is one that can get to be quite confusing. In order to customize a report, you need to be able to enter a form, a graph, parameters, etc. So we'll step through this. There's a couple ways to customize graphs. So we'll just start with a blank document. Start with blank document. And then I'm also going to open the help file. VibrationVIEW help file, if you haven't already been made aware, is a very powerful tool because it is actually helpful. So we are going to go in this context in the help file. If you go to the reports and forms box down here, and we'll start with report graphs. And as you go through this help file, in order to call out a graph via text, you can do graph. There are all these different flags that can get added to graphs. So if you want specific channels, if you want a specific height and width or DPI, if you want to see logarithmic or linear traces, if you want to see it in black and white, if you have a defined range that you want your x-axis or y-axis to be, if you want to view minor grid lines or only major grid lines, There are just a ton of different options. So as you scroll down, you can do all different types of notes. And if I look at my sine graph report types, these are all the different types of graphs that I can have. So if I wanted to see an acceleration versus frequency graph, I could put in graph : Excel, or graph : vel for velocity. And this can be a pretty involved process, getting all of these graphs to display the way that you want, with the appropriate channels, with the appropriate ranges, the appropriate size, all of that. So the easier method is to set up the graph that you want to see in VibrationVIEW. So let's say I want to see, let's just get rid of some data here. I would like to see channel 3. And that can stay there. We'll get rid of that. And then for my transmissibility graph, I want to see 1 to 3 so that that resonance is there. So I have acceleration profile, my drive output, and my transmissibility graph. And we're actually going to do from 30 to 1000 hertz. We're going to create something for this other file, which means I have to use channel 2 because that other file has channel 2, not channel 3. So, and I'm going to edit my test. It's going to go from 20 to 1000 hertz. I'm not actually going to run the test. I just want the graph and the traces that I want to display. So I'm going to copy this graph, go into Word, get rid of that, and simply paste it. Oop. I copied a trace. Sorry. Paste that image. Then I'm going to resize it a little bit because I don't want it to be that big. So I resize my window. Maybe make this a little bit smaller here. Perfect. That's the graph I want to see. But I also want a transmissibility graph. So I click on that transmissibility graph, hit Control-C on my keyboard, or right-click on my graph, hit Copy, or click on the graph and hit Copy up here. There's all different kinds of ways to do this. Go back to my report, double-click, hit Paste. It's way oversized, so I'm going to make that a little bit smaller. Sure, that looks pretty good. I'm going to save as, and we'll put it in our VibrationVIEW, templates, sine, and we're going to save this as webinar report. And I'm going to save it as a .rtf, so rich text format. That really is the key. So save it as a .rtf file. Hit save. Now I can hit close because I don't need my template open anymore. Now, in my data file, so this is not what I copied over, I'm going to right click, hit more templates, scroll down to that new RTF file that I just created called webinar report, hit open, save it, and it is going to generate a graph that has that trace data that I requested on it. So I had channel 3 data, I had my drive, and I had my transmissibility graph. So it copies and pastes and fills in with the new data what I had defined by copying and pasting graphs into a report template. And this works throughout VibrationVIEW. So anytime you have a configured graph, if that's a graph you want to see in a report, you don't have to try figure out the left bracket, graph, colon, all of the different parameters and settings that you would need to enter in order to get that graph to show up exactly as you want it. You can simply set up the graph in VibrationVIEW, copy it, paste it into your report location, into your report template, and then generate that report later. And it will always fill in with that new data. Alright, so customizing graphs. We talked about copying and pasting a configured graph into a report template. And then how to generate that report later. The next thing we're going to talk about for customizing reports is the parameters. And to find all of those different report parameters, you have to go into VibrationVIEW. We'll look at the live version for now. Under the View tab, there is a Report Parameters. And this will display all of the different report parameters that VibrationVIEW has for this test mode. So if I wanted to see channel 1, well, let's just do acceleration. And I hit enter, so I'm searching down here, hitting search, and it took me to, you can see my double caret, channel-acceleration. And I have an index drop down for my 4 channels that my system is configured for. If you had an 8-channel system, there would be 8 numbers. There would be 1 through 8 in the index drop down. Loop is for multi-box setup. So if you have 2 primary units tied together, or a dual phase system, or something like that where the output loop makes a difference, you can change the loop as well. Now, to do something with this channel acceleration, in order to get that value to report, I could click copy param. Copying value is just going to copy the static number in this value box. Copy param is going to give me the live update. So I could paste this param. I hit copy param and then press Control V as in Victor on my keyboard. If I double click on that annotation, you can see that it input param : channel accel1. If I channel 1 acceleration, I can type all that in here. That gets me a live updating annotation. But if I wanted to report this value, we can go back to our Sign webinar template. So webinar report, this is that template. I can add in here left bracket. Well, I can just paste because I already have it copied to my clipboard. So that gives me param channel acceleration 1. If I wanted channel 2, I could either go back to my report parameters, copy and paste that again, or just change this to a 2. 3. 4. Formatting does apply, so if I center align all of these, let's move this. So I can center align everything. Let's save it again. Close. Go to our data file that we're using for our example. Right click on the report button, more templates, scroll all the way to the bottom, generate my report. Now I have a little room for improvement on layout, but that's my problem. If you put text in there and things like that, you can get that spacing lined up nice. Or if I had formatted it into 4 actual columns rather than just tab spacing between them. But you can see that I have all 4 channels displayed for those params. This can be done for almost anything that VibrationVIEW knows. For more help on this, you can always go to the help file. Again, if I go to the help, to that reports and forms location, report parameters, it's by test mode. So if I wanted to see sign report parameters, parameter names, I'll make this a little bit bigger so it's not. And this is sorted out in alphabetical order. I can also do the sign channel readings. So that's that acceleration, velocity, displacement, and phase. You can also do total harmonic distortion if you have analyzer functions. Sign test profile. So if you want to pull information out of the test profile, you have your segment table, schedule table, digital output table. And there's also several vector parameters for sign resonance track and dwell. So the same way that we put in this param colon something, you can output that vector data by doing vector colon something. Alright, so we'll talk about test notes and tables. Test notes is an excellent feature built into VibrationVIEW that replaces the test technician's notebook with test notes that can be entered in VibrationVIEW. So if I do View and Test Notes, I can then tile that vertically. And test notes is exactly that. It allows me to enter test notes, enter notes that might be of interest. Control T will insert a time date stamp. And I can type a note, starting test. Hit start. Continue. And while this is going, let's say every 30 seconds, I want to know what my acceleration level is. And this is where test notes and what's called the tables tab in VibrationVIEW can be really a useful combination. So if I edit my test and go to the tables tab, I can, let's just start with the help. And we'll look at again, there's just a lot of information built into the help file. So even if I wanted to search like time, let's go with time param. So if I go to report parameters, so I'm looking for a time date stamp is what I'm after, and param FS is the default. I think param FF Yeah, FS time is the one I'm looking for. So I can type those param codes in here. Param FS time. And it is going to give me a time date stamp. Then, if you look in the lower right-hand corner, it says use the /T for a new tab. And I can type in a new param. So I could do something, I still have that channel Excel 1 on my clipboard. I could do that. Again, I could continue to pick up any of these. I know channel displacement. And param colon. I know all of these off the top of my head. There are many others. So there's things that you can do here. I have a time date stamp. I have then a tab, and it's going to display an acceleration, a displacement, and a velocity. And what I can do is append this to test notes by checking the Append Test Notes button. And I can do every sweep or every X amount of seconds. So if I do every 10 seconds. I can also add graphs. So if I wanted to see graph colon Excel, we'll just add that one in there. Append to test notes every 30 seconds. Click apply. And now I'm getting, as my test is running, which it still is, every 10 seconds I'm going to get this acceleration, velocity, and displacement with time and date. And every 30 seconds it's going to give me that acceleration profile, acceleration versus frequency. Now I didn't type anything in, so it's linearly spaced, and so there was my 30 seconds, because 10, 20, 30, and I got a new graph, a new instance of that graph. And if I sweep up, we'll let this start changing a little bit. You're going to see that change in the graph. So this really has nothing to do with reporting at this point, but when I generate a test report and put in the left bracket test notes, right bracket, so it's not a param, it's not a graph, it's just test notes. When I do that, similar to this, left bracket, test notes, right bracket, we'll let the sweep finished. It will actually pull all of the information out of these test notes and just display it in that test notes section. This is incredibly useful for report generation, especially after the fact. If I'm not generating my report and putting my notes in and putting my observations in right away, after running the test, it's very difficult to remember all of that. And if it's in a notebook rather than saved with the data file, it can be very difficult to remember exactly what was happening for this particular test and exactly what changes were made and all of that. So once this test finishes, we will take a look at our report. So I hit continue. Our report should be getting generated. We can open it. And now, if I keep scrolling down, you have this test notes section. So it said, here's the annotation that I typed in manually. And then here's everything that was automatically entered with the graph data every 30 seconds. Alright, so we hit 2 birds there. We talked about test notes, using test notes, and also customizing reports using tables and how to get that to display in VibrationVIEW.